right, but here's the deal.
What about the Department of Education?
Here's the deal. So now you're saying the Department of Education. Let's go back to the Department of Education.
Okay, so my point is, hold on. No, I didn't.
And see, this is what the debate becomes. It becomes this, again, it's this grab bag of like different issues, when all it really started with was like, do you think Black people are primarily responsible for the violent crime that's committed in this country? And now we're getting into, well, what about the Brown Board versus Education? What about, it's like, dude, you are living in the 60s, man.
Answer your question.
All right.
The reason that this was given, right, when you're talking about the Great Society program, the reason when you look at the Model Cities program,
Oh, he's going to get into the Democrats, isn't he? The Democrats are the real racists. They're the ones that LBJ said, I'm going to have those N-words voting Democrat for 50 years. That's not a real quote, by the way.
urban planning, $8 billion into Detroit, adjusted for inflation. The reason that, and I don't know if you know this, Black students in this country get more spending per pupil than white students. I don't know if you know that. That's an actual fact. Even in impoverished neighborhoods through public funding. These were the reparations that were asked of white.
Right. And that is a good point by Crowder. A lot of people don't know this, but like, you know, when people talk about education spending and spending per student, the vast majority of that goes to Black students in like cities like Baltimore and cities like Chicago. The initiative I always point to is in Chicago, I think this was 2022, the Department of Education under Biden, to be fair, under Biden, they decided to like revamp their funding to the Chicago school district. And what that took the form of was them giving Google Chrome or Google tablets to each of their students. Something like $20 million worth of Google tablets were stolen by the students. So, you know, you can say resources, but resources is just a euphemism for money. Give them money, give them things. What do they do with the things? They steal the things. Like, we need more resources in our school system. Well, you know, I live in far North Dallas. I live about 50 minutes north of Dallas. And there are suburbs all around here, and I've looked it up, that get around 9 to 11,000 per student. You know what they're paying per student in cities like Baltimore and Chicago, where the students are not able to read at a grade level? They're reading at a 4th grade level when they enter 12th grade. You know how much they get per student? Somewhere between 20 and 25,000. Is that a good use of money? But the people in this barber shop are saying, no, we need more of them resources. The resources thing, again, like I said earlier, they want your stuff. They want your money. They want your watch. They want to steal things from you. Maybe it's abstract, like resources. Maybe it's tangible in the sense of, give me all your money. Whatever it is, they want things. And, you know, resources is just kind of like a euphemism for that. But yeah, we've given resources. We've given plenty of money to these school districts that underperform. At a certain point, it reminds me of the criminals thing. It's like, either they choose to want to participate in school or they don't. It is what it is.
White people throughout each decade given, and then we're told, no, that's not the real one. They were given, whether you like them or not, whether you think they work or not. And by the way, I think they're dog shit. I think we should completely suspend the federal Department of Education. I think the Texas state could do a much better job. But those were done in the name of racial reparations because they were demanded,
Steve,
and now it's not enough.
You say that, but Steve, listen. You say we should suspend the Department of Education.
I agree with you, because so why would they do it correctly?
It's not just because it was done in the name of racial justice that it was done incorrectly.
That's the reason for it.
I'm saying that's the reason for it, but along the way of trying to achieve racial justice, you just did it wrong.
But let me ask you,
that's my point.
You say
people did.
We did it wrong. That's always the other thing too. Black people look at all the welfare that they've gotten, and then a white person says, you guys aren't doing too good with all this welfare we've given you. And then the Black person says, no, you just did it wrong. You did it wrong, man. You gave us $5 trillion, but like, it wasn't the right 5 trillion. Like, no, man. I think if you gave Asians 5 trillion, and I'm not pro-Asian immigration, I want them to stay in Asia, but like, if you gave Asians $5 trillion, like, imagine what that would look like. Like they would run, pardon the language, they would run our shit more now than they already do. Like, it seems to be like a Black specific problem where they can't like handle money. Gee, wonder why that
The way we were
Your reasoning
asked.
was right. Your approach was wrong.
So now you make some 20-year-old kid pay?
No, but you came out and said something that was interesting just now. You said that you're against the Department of Education, right? Let me tell you
Federal
something.
Department.
Yeah, Federal Department of Education. Let me tell you something that has come up in a lot of circles that I'm always talking about as a person with a disability. The Department of Education does a lot more in terms of, even with the enforcement of Section 504, right? 504 says that you must have accommodations for individuals with disabilities, right? Perfect example of it, when you walked in or someone just walked in, did you hear what that thing said? Right, left. Go down to Austin. Let me tell you something. When you suspend the Department of Education, you're also telling the remain 36 million people in this country who have disabilities, you know what? Screw you. Figure it out. We don't have to do anything, okay? And this is another reason, going back to what we said with the Black America. If you don't have certain mechanisms in place to ensure that there is a fair and level playing field, right? Guess what? The controlling party that's in power, or what have you, are not going to say, hey, wait a minute, let's look at this other disenfranchised segment of the community or what have you, and see how can we provide
I'll disabuse you of that notion.
Okay,
Let me disabuse you of that notion.
Go ahead.
Over $3 trillion adjusted for inflation, right? The Department of Education, early 70s. Okay, before that, they were run by states. Over $3 trillion. What are math scores? What are literacy scores now?
Right. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier is like, if you want to look at the effects of something like, public education, just look at the fruits. All this funding from the Department of Education, has it resulted in increased math scores? Obviously not. Now, their response would be, well, it wasn't distributed the right way. Obviously, that's not true because cities like Baltimore received $25,000, maybe 22, something like that. It's double white areas. I know that. They just say it's not distributed the right way, but the same thing with criminals. They say, well, it wasn't the criminal's fault. It was the system. The system failed him. No, I think it's the fault of the students that are repeat non-shower-uppers to school. The people who don't show up to school and still show up for a degree, the iPads getting stolen. I think that's the fault of the students. A lot of people like to say it's the Black parents, and there's some truth there. There is a lot of truth there, but that's more genetic than cultural, if you want me to be honest. Parenting is a reflection of genetics. Are you R or K selected? If you're R selected, you just want to reproduce. K selected is care. That's what you're getting from liberal families and families who say we can only afford one child. R selected is like you spray and pray like rabbits. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. So yeah, not to get too in the weeds there, but yeah, the Department of Education spending is a complete boondoggle.
And both
depends on what part of the country you're asking that about.
Across the board. Across the board.
You can't go there because I'm gonna tell you why you can't go there.
Hold on. Let me. I'll answer the question. Because then I'll show you an example of something that actually works. Because we need solutions. They're across the board down. In other words, $3 trillion, test scores are worse. And they're even worse in poor areas where there's more spending. Do you know where Black students in New York City actually do really well? White Catholic schools, where they have more students per teacher, on average 35 plus. In other words, they have fewer teachers. It's done privately. Charter schools, school choice is something I support. That means for everyone in this country. Can't do it because it's racist.
Let's look at the academia, though, okay?
That's why
Yeah, the school thing is interesting. I mean, I can only speak from personal experience here. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten through 12th grade. And yeah, I mean, it's just obvious that private education works better than public education. Magnet schools, charter schools, a little bit less so. I'm a little bit skeptical of the idea of school vouchers because all you're really doing is exporting diversity to the good schools. So I'm a little skeptical of that. I'm not totally opposed to it, but I'm a little skeptical. I really like the idea of just private schools. Maybe offer somewhat of a discount, financial aid, merit-based financial aid for private schools. It shouldn't be mandated by law because at the end of the day, the private schools should have the ability to be like, I don't like these parents. They seem ghetto. I don't want them here. I support that. But, if the parents are on the up and up, I'm for some form of financial aid to good kids. I was a recipient of financial aid when I went to school, both kindergarten through 8th and 9th through 12th. So yeah, I'm not opposed to that, but I mean, Crowder's correct here.
When you start talking about that, what have you, when you talk about test scores, we can go just south, north versus south or what have you. Let's look at the quality of education that's in these schools or what have you. Are you going to tell me that it's a standardized academic agenda that's promoted throughout this country? Or is it a fact that some people have a different education level than black? Listen, I work with people.
They're bad.
That's just IQ. What he's talking about there when he says, you can't tell me that black people and white people educated the same. No, dude, it's an IQ. Like, that is literally IQ. There is a deficit of good teachers in public schools, but that's largely a result of the poor behavior of the students in that school district. Why would a teacher want to work in the South Side of Chicago? Why would a teacher want to spend her early years in Baltimore? She wouldn't. I hate to say it, she's going to get raped. She's going to get mugged, get her car stolen. Why would you want to do that? There's a lot of, Dallas is partially known for its suburbs. That's kind of, ironically, Dallas is a big city, but it's more known for its like suburban sprawl. And the suburbs in Dallas have like notoriously great public schools. You have Allen, Frisco, the Colony, Little Elm, Colleyville, Grapevine. These are great schools. I don't see a deficit of teachers who want to teach kids there. I don't see it there. You know why? Because those areas are like 90% white. And until black people choose to change their behavior, the problems are going to compound.
Across the board.
I work with people every day that are out the north that have far excelled in
That's absolutely true.
Than we have in the
bad and worse.
South.
There's no good.
Right.
There's no good. There's shit and here. And what I'm saying is, here's something where we could find common. I've proposed this, many people have, where we go, look, instead of giving money to a school, like you say, some of these schools suck, right? Instead of just putting, let's say the average spending is $15,000 per student. That's a rounded number. It's anywhere from 13 to 50, okay? If instead of putting that money in the administrative costs at a school, what you do is you say, okay, that's a grant, that's a voucher that attaches to the student, and
they're not capable of understanding this. This is hands off. This is high altitude. This is theoretical stuff. He's talking to them about, well, what if we repurpose? Imagine telling this to like a group of 90 IQ people. Look, what if we repurpose the money to go into a fund where we did? Dude, they're not following. They just hear you wronged them, you stole from them. They got a worse hand dealt to them because they black. Like, bro, they're not listening, Stephen.
they can take it to any school they want, so they have to compete. So that kid can now choose where they go to school. Can't do it because it's racist. That's why it's been fought. People say black kids would still be stuck in shit schools than white kids.
Why?
Well, see, that comes back
because they wouldn't be able to transport themselves out of a bad neighborhood.
Okay, so
but right now they're stuck with one.
And he agrees with that. This guy nodded. He said, yeah, that's true. That's true. Crowder gave the anti-position to his position. He said what they say is racist about it is that black kids would still be trapped in black schools. Watch this guy's reaction.
Well, see, that comes back
because they wouldn't be able to transport themselves out of a bad neighborhood.
Okay.
He goes,
So
yeah.
right.
He goes, yep, that's true. That's true. They wouldn't be able to transport it. And see, it gets back into earlier about the black guy saying, white people are known for their excuses. Listen to this guy. This guy's blaming lack of transport. He's saying the reason black schools suck is because black people don't have cars or something like there will always be an excuse. You need to separate.
Now they're stuck with one school.
So when you start asking those whys and go down the rabbit hole of why and start asking, okay, well, why would somebody say that? Well, this is why.
Well, I'll tell you why they really say it.
And
because of teachers unions.
Because of teachers unions?
Yeah. It doesn't make. In other words, if
I get
a black kid right now has to go to
because
one.
in certain communities where they don't have certain resources, it's a lot of kids. Once again, I live in. I've raised my kids, graduated 3 kids from. I've been afforded some things in this community that some people down south don't have.
Yeah,
right.
That's a fact.
I've been afforded, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier. This guy says, I've been afforded certain things in this community that other people don't have. It is this very, like, hands-off approach. It's this theoretical approach. Like he was dealt a blackjack hand, and he got a king and an ace, and the other person got a 2 and a 7. Or not a 2, that's a good hand, actually. Like a 2 and a 4. And the dealer had a king. You know, like he's saying, I got afforded. No, dude, you weren't afforded anything. And it's actually like I'm not trying to go full Dems. Dems don't allow black people their own ability to think. But it is true that like this guy is not taking credit for his own wins. He's saying I got afforded opportunities that other people didn't have. Dude, any opportunity, any leg up that you got afforded was because of your actions. I look at something like my family, right? My family was never wealthy by any means. My mom had an office job. My dad was he was a driver for FedEx most of my life. He was a trucker my whole life. From the age of 6 to when did he buy his own business? Maybe when I was 20. From the age of 6 to 20, my dad was a truck driver for FedEx or other smaller companies. Um, the reason I was able to attend private school wasn't because the government showed up at our house and said, "Here is your white privilege money." I don't even know how that would work because my mom is white, my dad is black. I don't really know even how that would work. Did they give us half the money? Did they give us three quarter? I don't know. Um, but the idea that like you only got afforded privilege because that's the hand you were dealt is ridiculous. No, the reason I was able to go to good schools and had the opportunity to go to college was because of the decisions my parents made and because of like not tooting my own horn, but I think I'm relatively intelligent. Like that's the reason I'm able to live the way I am. It's not because the government showed up one day and said, here's 50% of your white privilege check. It's ridiculous. And that's what this guy's doing. He said, I got afforded the privileges. They didn't. So what, the money fairy skipped over them and the money fairy dropped you money, and it's like mystical thinking, dude. It's woo-woo thinking.
And I'm some of these school events, I'm questioning them like, how the hell y'all expect?
I'm also looking at his eyes. This guy's a little schizo. One eye's pointing here. Yeah, there may be some mental illness here with this guy, but he's kind. I don't dislike this guy. This guy's not a bad guy. I just think he's wrong.
And I'm some of these school events, I'm questioning them like, how the hell y'all expect us to have jobs and still transport these kids to and from these events all throughout the day? But if them people,
How do you expect me to have a job and transport these kids? Bro, maybe have a freaking car when you have a kid. Maybe have a car already when you have a kid. Maybe be like have a good job by the time you have a kid. Like this is the lowest bar. Like that's the thing that always trips me out. This is the lowest bar for participating in society, and black people cannot seem to cross over that very easy bar. I'm not perfect, right? I'm not a perfect, uh, you know, sinless. Obviously, there's been one sinless person. It was Jesus. Um, I'm not some sinless, perfect saint. I've made my mistakes. But when I got married and had a kid, especially, I made sure things were in place. Do I have a job? Do I have retirement set up? Do we have a car? How far do we live from my job? Do I have criminal charges pending? No. Am I uh, do I need to change this part of my life? Okay, good. That's these people just can't seem to deal with the very basic aspects of life. And that's what this guy's saying. He's saying, how do you expect us to have kids and transport them? Dude, I don't know what to tell you, man. People have done it for millions of years, right? Maybe tens of thousands of years. They've had kids and they found a way to make sure they're educated and make sure they can still go hunt deer and put deer meat on the fire. Like, but for some reason in 2025, I'm supposed to believe, well, man, if only we had a car. If only we had a car, and then I'd be successful. That's the story of black people. If only we had one more thing. Give me, give me 10 more dollars. Like, dude, I don't, if you can't organize your life when you get married, well, these people aren't married. They have kids out of wedlock. If you can't organize your life when you bring a new person into the world, nothing is going to change your outlook, dude. It's already cooked.
down there had to do it.
So you think what we're doing now is better?
Because they ain't got transportation. Half of them ain't got transportation.
I think we need to go back to the real
don't have
truth and the real
transportation
truth.
now.
Because that's what I'm saying. Because they're in impoverished areas, and we already know, based on how we see.
So then how do we fix it? Do we have to pay for a
areas
car,
don't even
a
have
house?
grocery stores.
No, of course not.
Those same
Oh,
areas
that's
don't.
horseshit.
There's food
I see
deserts.
everyone
Come
here.
on now, you don't
Everyone
know
here
about
has a
food deserts.
smartphone. You can literally order any food that's ever existed on Earth to any
But
municipality cheaper than ever.
if you're in an area that already has a lack of resources and you already low.
Lack of resources. And Crowder's right. He's like, dude, everybody here has a smartphone. Everybody can order literally any food, especially in a city like Dallas, dude. It's not like you live in Podunk, I don't even know, like eastern Montana or something, eastern North Dakota. Like, dude, you live in Dallas, Texas, and you have a smartphone. Stop talking to me about, man, we don't even got resources. Dude, you have a smartphone. You could order halal. You could order gyros. You could order birria tacos. You could order chicken parm. Like, you can even go to some of the most high-end restaurants, not just in the country, in the world. You could go to Dior Cafe at Highland Park Village. You can go to Samo Sushi in downtown Dallas. There is nothing stopping you other than yourself. But, well, IQ also, but these people will just never. This is the reason black people are a permanent underclass. Permanent underclass, because there's no like creativity and thinking. There's no like, I could exit this. I could leave this hellhole and become better. This guy could easily wear a suit, get it, well, not easily because IQ barrier, but get a suit, get a degree, get his MBA, get his associates, and then move up, get a good job, whatever, man. Do your thing. No one would stop you, but in his mind, there's a barrier, and that's why these people will never be successful, and that's why we have a permanent underclass in this country.
Income, how you gonna order something?
Amazon, one click.
But see, here's the deal.
ain't got money.
We're talking about food deserts in 2025. Come on.
And do you see how like tedious this conversation has gotten? We're now arguing about the ability of black people to order on Amazon because the black people have made the claim that like they don't have enough resources to have a phone to transport their children. And Crowder's just like, you can order on Amazon. Dude, these people don't have bank accounts because they operate dishonestly. Like, we're really getting into the tedious nature of these arguments. I'm glad this last part happened, and we probably only have a few minutes left here. But yeah, I mean, this is what the argument devolves into if you go long enough. They are not meant to have these kind of conversations. I'm sorry.
I think there's a broader problem that we were not discussing. You know what that is? You've got to go all the way back. This has been an insidious process that's been at work. And the bad part about it is, as long as we as white and black America keep fighting among each other, we'll never see the big picture. You go back to 1982 under Charlotte T. Eisenman, who was the Department of Secretary under Ronald Reagan, Department of Education. She wrote a good expose many, many years later called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. She kind of patterned that after that B.F. Skinnerian behavioral modification, and it ties all into
B.F. Skinner. That's who we say. I don't even know that he pronounced it right. B.F. Skinner.
the founder before the Department of Education, which was General Education Board, where they say, you know what, we don't need more painter, we don't need more artists, or we don't need more poets. We just want good cogs in a wheel that are easily taught, that we can mold under our own hand. That mantra still holds true today. So you got to look at where we come from. We come from a nation that was industrious, and coupled with innovation to now, everybody tends to do things like you say with your smartphone. You know why? Because pictures keep you from looking at things contextually. All right. So when you think about this educational system, you got to.
This is low IQ rambling, by the way.
Go back to what changed in this educational system and why we're where we are. Because you can't just simply say, yeah, but you can't just simply say that everybody wants to be dumb or everybody in the South.
I didn't say everybody wants to be dumb.
Okay, well, tell you this too. Here's another problem why scores are so much lower in this country, especially when you talk about black America.
Because money doesn't fix a problem. It's that
money doesn't.
We've thrown money at the problem and it doesn't do shit.
And also this gets into what Vivek Ramaswamy talks about. I really hate it. I've been seeing the clips go viral. I want to get the guy on my show, Jeremy Carl. If he sees this, come on the show, man. he debated Vivek Ramaswamy the other day, and what Vivek likes to talk about is the fact that U.S. test scores are lower than the rest of the world. That's actually not true. When you break it down by race, white Americans only test lower than I think Koreans, Japanese, and Chinese. Not even Israel, actually. The Jewish IQ thing is a myth. But U.S. American whites only test lower than like Northeastern Asians. That's about it. Now, Black Americans do test slightly higher than Africans, but they are still in the bottom quartile. So yeah, the idea that like Americans' test scores are low and Americans are dumb, that's actually not true, man. When you separate for race, white Americans are just fine. It's this attachment to liberalism, this attachment to the idea we have to elevate everyone. It's like, dude, not everyone is meant to be elevated. I'm sorry.
Solve the problem at the core root of it and start reforming the real academia, all right? That's where you solve the. So you know what you tell people? We're going to operate in a system of meritocracy. God damn it, you will eat what you kill. If you're giving you $50,000 to go to school and you decide that you don't want to, or you fail to adhere to what's being presented before you, then shame on you.
I agree. You do away with DEI, you do away with the sex affirmative action, do away with all of it. Eat what you kill.
Do away with DEI, but make it fair across the board.
But that's what I'm saying.
I agree.
If you're going to do away with DEI, you got to make sure that the merits are properly being counted. Because the reason why DEI was invented, reason why affirmative action was invented, is because you'd have two qualified candidates, same qualifications, but one would get in strictly because his name was Johnny and the other one's name was Jamal.
But that's not true anymore. The opposite is happening. The person whose name is Jamal is being more considered for the spot at Harvard than Johnny. Like, that's what they don't get. They can never actually like remove the chip from their shoulder and realize that it's actually not unfair anymore. It's actually unfair the other way. But it's a perpetual state of victimhood.
But we're gonna take Johnny, because naturally Johnny's gonna be better at it. But they got the same qualifications. That's why affirmative action was instituted in the first place.
DEI came in because of shrinking white feminists who wanted to claim credit.
That's a snapshot you can present it in, but
I agree with you.
That's a snapshot you can present it in, but I'm just saying, like, the reason why.
No, what I'm saying is,
you go down to ask why.
I'm being flippant, but the truth is, black people were being admitted in record numbers if they had the same qualifications before DEI and affirmative action. White shrieking feminists wanted to take credit for something that was already happening because people had become less racist, so they can say, tag my white name on there, DEI. See what I did for black people?
See, I don't like this. I'm probably going to end it here. We'll watch a couple more minutes. But yeah, I mean, Crowder is very eager to attribute all this to like white liberal women. And there is some truth there. But, when you dig into it, a lot of it is like Jewish women, if we're being honest. But let's see what he has to say here, and then we'll probably wrap it up.
People, it's white guilt. And what I'm trying to tell you is young people who have nothing to do with any of this, their guilt is running out, and you can't escape the violent murder rate. You can't escape them losing opportunities and being blamed for being racist when they're not. And you want those kids to pay reparations? You're creating a generation of racists. That's what's going to happen. And
then you're going to have a...
We're not creating DEI.
Then you're going to
have... We as a black community, we're not creating a generation of racists. You know who's creating that generation of racists? Those older white people are feeding that into their kids. See, all white people are not racist. I don't believe that.
No, of course not.
But the ones that come from families that have that inherent gene or trait in them, they're passing that on.
How?
See, I look at this, the gentleman that got killed, Charlie. He was killed by a white man, a young white man, right? From the generation that you're talking about that's getting fed up.
Well, he was banging
now, his dad had one ideology. He followed another ideology. That's out the same household. He didn't come from nowhere black. He wasn't hanging around with no bunch of black people.
I know, I agree. I'm not saying
that mindset. His daddy put whatever was into him. His dad either put that into him, or his rebellion from his father caused him to think like that. That we're not creating that. Black people.
That has nothing to do with them. I agree.
No one is talking about that. This is a complete misdirection. Like, dude, nobody is talking about black people killing Charlie Kirk. Like, yes, what happened to Charlie Kirk was evil. It was sickening. I still choke up about it to this day. But it's like no one when we're talking about black crime, nobody is saying the blacks get what they think basically is that Crowder is blaming black people for all their problems. And it again, it does kind of remind me of like a Jewish thing where the rebuttal to like anybody who has criticisms of the Jewish lobby, the Jews will say, "You're blaming Jews for all your problems." It's like, no, I'm not saying that. I don't think Charlie Kirk was killed by Israel. I actually don't think that. And I don't think Charlie Kirk was killed by a black guy. That is a random act of violence. What we're talking about is systemic, structural violence, which is what black people participate in. And if you want to talk about what Jews participate in, it's usury, it's infiltration, it's undermining of the society, of the host society. So yeah, I mean, those are two totally different things.
You ever seen over in Africa, you see an elephant with a bird riding on his back. That elephant ain't worried about that bird because that bird not stopping him from doing the thing he want to do. We're the bird.
No.
We're the bird.
You're
We're not
the bird.
stopping white America from doing anything.
You know what? The
they wanna
bird just
do.
burned down $4 billion worth of cities
the
and
bird ain't
60,000 assaults.
No.
And what young white kids? No, hold on. You gotta
the bird
listen.
might get blamed for it.
Right.
The bird is half as big as the elephant.
Steve, you act like it's only blacks that was burning it down.
What about the Black Wall Street?
You know what I said earlier, and you listen is when you have young.
Someone said Black Wall Street. I might do this in a separate video. The idea of Black Wall Street is really starting to permeate right now. The idea that like there was this street of successful, they're not even successful black businesses, but like stock trading in 1920 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the white people got jealous and burned it down. That is just not true. Basically, what that stemmed from was there was a white man and a black man and a white woman in an elevator. It's actually how a lot of these stories start. He either tried to rob her or sexually assault her. That is a little bit up for debate. All that people know is that the black man came running out of the elevator, and yeah, white people said, "Hey, he tried to assault a white woman. We're going to kill him." And the racial sides formed up, and in turn, the black street of grocery stores, whatever, watch repair, whatever they had, was burned down in the process. It wasn't this like the blacks are making too much money, we gotta burn it down. Like that is what people think, and maybe we need to tackle that in another video. But yeah, let's wrap up here.
White person going, okay, why is this happening? And people go, Black Lives Matter. And they go, well, hold on a second. I have an opinion on Black Lives Matter. They go, well, sit down, shut up. Okay, now silence is violence. And that kid goes, well, what do I do? By the way, you're on the hook for reparations, even though his father, his grandfather, his great-great-grandfather didn't own a slave, and he's still 12 times more likely to be killed by a black person the other way around. You're going to. What I'm saying is society is going to create a generation of racists. What do you say to that young white kid? What do you say to him?
Stop watching. Stay off of TikTok.
Stop reading stats.
Stop paying attention to what these talking heads are saying, because they're leading you down the wrong.
Don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe what your lying eyes are telling you. You may see that black people are robbing people, but don't believe your lying eyes. That's what this guy's saying.
Path. They leading you down a path of paranoia and conspiracy theories.
What if their interactions with black people in general are quite negative? Well, we're in it now, and we're going to continue next Thursday, October.
Okay. Anyway, Thursday, October 16th. Maybe I'll do a video on that. All right. I think we can probably wrap up there. Yeah, a lot to unpack there. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Jordan, Jordan, B, the letter B, videos, but VIDE0S, not OS. So yeah, if you enjoyed, be sure to do all the things, and I appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.